What is happening across Canada right now is a classic late-season battle between winter and spring. But this year, winter is not giving up easily. From coast to coast, the country is locked in a dynamic and somewhat unstable weather pattern that is producing everything from calm but bitter cold conditions in central regions to a powerful and potentially dangerous winter storm unfolding in the east. This is not a uniform weather story. It is a split pattern. And understanding that contrast is key to understanding what is happening today and what is coming next. The biggest headline right now is clearly focused on Atlantic Canada, where a major multi-system winter storm is already underway and beginning to intensify. This is not just a single storm system moving through quickly. Instead, it is a sequence of disturbances moving along the same track, reinforcing each other and extending the duration of impacts. Nova Scotia is currently dealing with the first phase, where snow has already begun spreading across the southwestern part of the province and is gradually pushing towards central regions, including Halifax. At this stage, snowfall is becoming steadier, and the atmosphere is primed for heavier accumulation as we move deeper into the evening. What makes the situation in Nova Scotia particularly important is the type of snow that is falling. Temperatures are hovering very close to the freezing mark, and that creates wet, heavy snow rather than the light, powdery type often seen in colder conditions. This heavier snow accumulates quickly and sticks to surfaces, which increases the risk of power outages as it weighs down trees and power lines. It also makes driving conditions more hazardous because roads become slushy and slippery rather than simply snow-covered. As the system progresses into the overnight hours, snowfall rates are expected to increase, and that is when conditions will begin to deteriorate more rapidly, especially on highways and untreated roads. As the first system continues moving eastward, attention is already shifting to the second and more powerful system that is targeting Newfoundland. This is where the situation becomes more serious and more complex. The atmospheric setup over Newfoundland is more energetic, with stronger winds, deeper moisture, and more intense snowfall rates expected. Southeastern parts of the island, including the Avalon Peninsula and the St. John's area, are in the direct path of this system, and confidence is very high that this region will experience the most severe impacts. Snow is expected to begin overnight and quickly intensify as we move into Monday. At times, snowfall rates could become very heavy, and when combined with strong winds, this will lead to rapidly deteriorating visibility. Wind gusts could reach between 80 and 100 kilometers per hour, and that creates a situation where blowing snow becomes a major factor. Even if snowfall is not at its peak, strong winds can pick up existing snow and reduce visibility to near zero. This is how blizzard-like conditions develop, and once they do, travel becomes extremely dangerous, if not impossible. There is also an additional layer of complexity in southeastern Newfoundland due to temperature fluctuations. In some coastal areas, especially along the southern Avalon Peninsula, temperatures may rise just enough to introduce a mix of precipitation. This could include ice pellets or even a brief period of rain. While that might seem like a reduction in snowfall, it actually introduces new hazards. Mixed precipitation can create icy surfaces and lead to a heavier, denser snowpack when temperatures drop again and precipitation transitions back to snow. That transition is expected as colder air wraps back into the system, and when it happens, it will likely be accompanied by another round of strong winds and blowing snow. While Atlantic Canada is dealing with the most active weather right now, conditions across the rest of the country tell a very different story. In central Canada, including Ontario and Quebec, the atmosphere is relatively stable at the moment. Skies are generally clear to partly cloudy, and there is no major storm system directly impacting the region right now. However, the cold remains firmly in place. Temperatures are still well below seasonal averages, and that is a clear sign that winter has not fully released its grip on this part of the country. Even though conditions are quieter, the underlying pattern suggests that this calm may not last, as active storm tracks continue to move across North America and could bring new systems into the region in the coming days. Across the Prairie provinces, including Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, the story is one of persistent cold and relative stability. These regions are sitting under a dominant Arctic air mass, which is keeping temperatures low and limiting the development of major storm systems. There may be periods of light snow and cloud cover, but overall, conditions are not as active as what we are seeing in the east. This is a more typical late winter pattern for the prairies, where cold air can linger well into March and even April. Further west in British Columbia, the weather becomes more variable. Coastal areas are experiencing milder conditions, with cloud cover and occasional rain, as Pacific air continues to influence the region. Meanwhile, interior areas are still dealing with colder temperatures and a mix of sun and cloud. This contrast between coastal and inland conditions is common for British Columbia, especially during transitional seasons like spring. The Pacific influence brings moisture and milder air to the coast, while colder continental air remains trapped inland. In northern Canada, the deep freeze continues with little change. Temperatures remain extremely cold, often dropping well below -20 degrees Celsius, and in some areas even colder. Blowing snow and harsh conditions are still present, and there is very little indication of any significant warming trend in the near future. This region remains firmly locked in winter, and that is not unusual for this time of year. Looking at the overall pattern across the country, what stands out is the role of the jet stream. It is positioned in a way that allows cold Arctic air to remain in place across central and northern Canada, while also steering storm systems into the eastern part of the country. This creates a split pattern, where some regions experience calm but cold conditions, while others deal with active and sometimes severe weather. March is known for this kind of variability, and this year is proving to be no exception. As we move through the next 24 to 48 hours, the main focus will remain on Atlantic Canada, where the storm will continue to develop and intensify. Conditions will worsen in stages, with Nova Scotia dealing with the first wave and Newfoundland facing the more powerful second system. Elsewhere in the country, cold conditions will persist, but the overall pattern suggests that more systems are likely to follow. This is a reminder that even as spring approaches, winter can still deliver significant impacts across Canada. The current setup is a perfect example of how quickly conditions can change and how different regions can experience completely different weather at the same time. It is a dynamic situation, and it will continue to evolve as new data comes in and the atmosphere responds to these competing influences.